VU Campus Radio. Learn, live, listen. VU Campus Radio.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we're here with the first episode of our interview series for the upcoming student elections that are happening between the 13th of April and the 17th of April. Today, I'm here with Simon Westhoff from ChangeVU. You're the community coordinator at ChangeVU, right?
Yes, I'm the community coordinator, but I've been active in ChangeVU for the past. This is going to be my third election, so.
Nice. So you're you've been around.
Yeah,
you've been around.
Exactly. Community coordinator is just a title.
Oh, thank you so much for sitting down with us
Yes.
and for answering some questions.
I love radio, so.
So our first question is a very simple one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you introduce ChangeVU to us in 1 minute?
Yes, I'll try shorter. ChangeVU is currently the biggest student party that we have at the VU. At every university, you have student participation. So next to the Workers' Council that you have at the university, you also have a University Council that consists, at the VU's case, of 11 students, one from each faculty, at least one. And these students, they decide the governance, they decide the policy, like the really broad scope issues that we have at the university, with all these issues that are flying around, like budget cuts or decrease in internationalization, safety on campus, less space for students to organize themselves horizontally, whether it be through organizing strikes or just organizing amongst themselves, building community within study associations. That's what got me really active to try and make a change at the university, and I think that's also what ChangeVU is all about. So being a student's voice, increasing the shared sense of community that we have here at our lovely campus university, Vrije Universiteit.
Yeah, I went through your policy plan. And I have some questions about
Yeah.
that. First of all, the one that stood out the most to me was that ChangeVU is proposing a Know Your Rights program. Yeah, can you tell us something about that?
Sure. I'm glad to say that we already made amendments this year in the UR, basically the all-encompassing document, where a lot of study programs and courses derive their course guides from, because as a student you really have a lot more rights than you would initially think when it comes to checking on your exams, when it comes to if you play sports, for example, you can get clemency in terms of attendance. The university isn't this monolith that has no that you cannot change at all. There's a lot of these ameliorating circumstances that I think are really important to highlight for students who are struggling, because they also work a second job or a first job, because they have to take care of family at home.
And how do you think you're going to do that specifically to bring awareness?
So that's where the Know Your Rights campaign comes in. We want to make it more clear at the start of each course that students have somewhere to go to, that these avenues exist, because these avenues do exist, but quite often there's just not enough outreach for it or not enough awareness. That students, not just for ameliorating circumstances, but also if you look at like the Emergo-hal, for example, that students really do have a say in that. Not that the Emergo-hal is directly tied to the Know Your Rights campaign, but as a student, you enter a contract with your university, and like any legal contract, it has legal clauses. You have a right to education at the same level as you do when you start your study, for example.
Okay. And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Emergo-hal, because my next question was actually going to be about examination and examination fairness, because quite a large part of your policy plan is also about that. And I read that you wanted to change the system of supervision on examinations. Can you elaborate on that?
This is part of like a larger thing we really try to distinguish ourselves in, which is also campus safety. What we've seen in the past, some occurrences where students, where like security that's present at these examination halls were not properly informed of what students can and can't wear, for example. In terms of that, what you don't want and what has happened before is that these people from within the university, or let's just say like security, would not let a student participate in an exam because of wearing a headscarf, for example. I think that's just a really important part of feeling safe at this campus. So that's it ties into that larger picture,
Right.
that you need to make sure that everyone feels welcome here, also during their exams, and that they also know that the examinators as well as the students are properly informed.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And
now-
having an external person there could help that.
Okay. And now that we're on the topic of social safety on campus, like, of course, there's been a lot going on regarding social safety over the last year. What are some specific things that ChangeVU plans to do?
Yes, at the university, unfortunately, in the past, not just year, but the past 3 years, we have seen a rise in, I'll just say, like, far-right extremism on our campus. And that whole situation kind of exploded, let's say. I think it was in April last year, but also in November last year. And it made a lot of headlines. I was also personally involved in it. So for me, it's an extra factor to really like push myself to be involved in these campaigns again. I think that at the university, you should be at a university space like this. It's very naive to think that when you have a country or like let's say the whole West that's moving towards the far right, it's very naive to think that you cannot be insulated from that as a campus university. So you really are you're on the front lines of it, because hopefully at this university campus we all value a pluralistic learning environment. We value facts over feelings, which makes it all the more important that when you see these transgressive behaviors, in this case, like from the far right, that you in Dutch you would say normeren, so that you have clear guidelines, just to counter extremism. And I think it's very important also to make a distinction between activism and extremism, because what you've seen at the university is an increased securitization as well. That's been put through or rationalized by the fact that there were student demonstrators on campus. And I think that's very important. But if you have extremism on campus, you should also have different guidelines for that. And all of that can exist within the current frameworks of the government itself. But then you have to kleur bekennen, as you would say in Dutch. You have to really express that there's no place for like right-wing extremism on this campus. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a politically active student. It's been Nazi chants, there's been violent behavior, there's been assaults, there's been sexually transgressive behavior, there's been vandalism in the student dock here itself.
Yeah.
And the university for a very, very long time has just looked away in the hopes that this would somehow like
Disappear.
dissolve or disappear. Yeah. It's a very long track to what you were asking, but you were saying something about social safety.
Yeah, what specific ideas does ChangeVU have about social safety?
So I would say install these clear guidelines that are in line with also the government watch of the Nationaal Coördinator tegen Extremisme, so the National Coordinator Against Extremism. There are a lot of ways that you could tackle this issue through policy, but I think the most important thing is that you speak out as a university and don't hide in legal or PR procedures, as the executive board has admitted they have done. In Advalvas, I think it was the 19th of February, they literally said that they were too that they were too influenced by their legal teams and their PR teams in addressing this issue, and I just think that it's really important for students, to speak out against that and find the university at their side. So one is a shift in culture, and one is a shift in policy.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that. And on to another part of your policy plan. There's a lot about campus facilities, so like the cafeteria, but also accessibility. What are some things that ChangeVU wants to change here in terms of facilities?
In terms of the facility organization, like a lot is going on right now. What we have is the destruction of the WN building, which was long overdue. But that also leaves a lot of students without space for studying, without space for their study associations, without a lot of labs as well. And I think when the university decides on a new project that's being built here, that instead of when they're at the drawing board, that they should involve students at a much earlier stage. Because what we see now is that we can maybe have our say what we think about it, but they're not involved in the policy at all, with the idea that it's not really, that it doesn't involve students. But in the USR, you can make an appeal that if you think it involves students, then they should let you know how it doesn't, right? So what I think we want to achieve within the USR is to be at this drawing board and make sure that there's enough space for students, not just to study and not just to make their exams, because that's also what you see right now, is that there's a severe shortage of examination space. We don't know what's going to happen to Emergo Hall, but I don't think it's passing most of the tests. And the university, it's really such a shame, because we have so much space here. I remember studying in the second floor of the main building, where you had this lovely study space, and now it's been converted to an examination hall that's being empty 95% of the time. I've never even had an exam in there. I don't know what they are using it for. So just to have a bit more transparency in what the spaces allocated at the university are being used for, and also hopefully how we can convert some of these spaces, I think would really help a lot. Yeah. And just involve students also in how these spaces are being decorated, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And moving on, there is a little bit of an elephant in the room, which is that 2 of the new student parties have split off from ChangeVU.
Yes.
Do you have an explanation as to why?
Well, I wouldn't say they split off. But let me preface it with just saying that I'm really glad that democracy has been restored, so to say, because the past 2 years, there was just only really a choice between ChangeVU on one side and then VSP on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good that there is a party for also conservative voices at the university, but it led to really it led to polarization for one, but it also really led to politicization because VSP was against the pride flag at the university. They were against studying in English, they were in favor of the budget cuts that are still going to affect us and are still affecting us. So this politicization of all these national issues, it led. I think it didn't really do justice to what's happening at the VU, to like more localized issues that we should all care about.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like a Democrat versus Republicans. So yeah, that was what that was the past 2 years. Now VSP has decided not to field any candidates, and they have also disbanded in every other university city. Because they had chapters all over the country. So I'm glad that we're not the only party left. And you have the student coalition that's running now. I think it's funny because I was reading their policy points just before coming in here. And
right.
I don't think there's a lot to distinguish ourselves from with them. I think it's basically like 95% of everything that is in their policy plan, our policy plan, is the same. But maybe the accents are different, or the priorities of are different in terms of maybe constituencies. I'm not really sure.
Yep.
But I think it's really important also that for first generation students and students with a non-Western background, because I assume that's what Student Coalition mainly wants to focus on. I think it's really valuable to have a party that advocates for those issues as well and have that voice at the table, because the VU is the university with the largest share of first generation students. And I think that's something that we should cherish and be proud of, and should also elevate, because you can talk about diversity, but you can also have those diverse, not just the diverse faces, but also the diverse voices at the table. I think that's very important. So I'm really looking forward to having their counselors work with our counselors in the future. And I'm really happy also for Beth Sam that she gets to work on a project like this.
Right.
It's all love, I would say. And then, and also for Consensus VU. So that's set up by our the former DB, the former Daily Board of the University Council, the chair and the vice chair. They were also part of ChangeVU. I think I'm also really happy that they still are involved in fielding candidates, having their own party. We had I'm saying we, but I should say the people that were in the council with ChangeVU this year, and them, there was a difference in opinion on how to handle the VSP situation, or how to handle, let's say, there's a case running right now. So and it's also in English, so I'm not really sure how to comment on it. But the alleged mishandling,
assault.
Yeah, the alleged assaults that were taking place on campus, assaults with a discriminatory character, extremist violence. Let's just say extremist violence. So with the extremist violence taking place, I think there was a difference in opinion on how to handle that situation, and the opinion on the counselor's side was that the DB went along too much in the frame of the CVB, of the executive board, and the executive board themselves, they have admitted that they were too influenced by their legal advisors, their PR advisors. So they also say that they had been too passive.
Yeah.
I think it's just a difference in working styles, and it's a shame that it led to them leaving the party, but it's also good if they feel that there should be a party that's less focused on. I don't want to say an antagonistic approach with the CVB, because we don't have an antagonistic approach. It's just with this issue specifically, ChangeVU felt that it was really important to draw a line, let's say. And I think they also did, but there was just a difference in opinion on how to handle the situation, to do it maybe more procedurally or do it more, from maybe from conviction. I'm not really sure, because I don't want to put words in their mouth.
Yeah.
But to conclude, the counselors felt that they were that the DB was being too that they were I'll say the counselors felt that the DB was siding too much with the CVB and going along in their frame too much, and we tried to resolve that, and we couldn't, and it is what it is. But I'm really glad that they are also still fielding their own party. I think the more parties, the better, because you don't want one. You don't want one party to become too loud.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for clarifying that whole situation as well.
Yeah.
On to what makes ChangeVU. What's the proudest achievement over the last year?
Yes. So I think over the last year, clarifying the UR, putting this clause in the UR has been really important. And I think hopefully, because it's a top-down process, we'll see more faculties and more courses taking more into consideration how to convey to these students that they have rights. So just putting that at the forefront and communicating it clearly, not to cause any issues, but to have these students also know what their rights are and that they are in this contract. So I'm really glad that that had gotten through. It was a bit of a struggle as well, just to change one sentence in these regulations. But I'm glad that the council stood firm. And from the year prior, I'm really glad that we that we successfully lobbied for better board compensation for study associations. Yeah. So, and I do think that those are like kind of the pillars of ChangeVU, like standing for community through study associations, but also supporting students' peaceful right to protest without this securitization that we see, this increased securitization that we see at the VU, which I think is a really big topic. And also, the community part, the transparency part, I think those two are really big topics, and I'm glad that, we made inroads on both of those.
Right. And for students who are still doubting to vote, what would you tell them? Why would they have to vote for ChangeVU? Is there like any specific policy that you're very proud of?
I would say don't vote for a party. Vote for a candidate that you can identify with. I think we are fielding a broad range of candidates that I'm very proud of, that have a background in faculty councils, in the student union, in VU for Palestine, in the ESN, the Erasmus, and from every faculty as well. And also we have two candidates, Laura and Mirta, who have been in the USR this year. So that have learned along the way, and hopefully will be even more effective this year. And if you don't identify with any of those candidates, then for sure go check out the other parties as well.
And our final question for every party is, if you had to choose one song that describes your party, what would you say it is?
Ooh. I would say a Madonna song. I think Madonna Hung Up. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us and answering our questions. And good luck with the elections.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this interview. It's been lovely.